Dear Diary.
Dear Diary.
Dear Diary, wow, today was a really hard day.
Dear Diary, I find sometimes my life can be hard.
Dear Diary, it will pass and it will be okay.
Dear Diary, I feel like today is going to be...
Shh, the Indigo Diaries. Dear Diary, welcome world to the Indigo Diaries. First, let me introduce myself, as this is the first time I'll be hosting. My name is Natasha Hickling, and I'm the host of this brand new podcast, the Indigo Diaries. I welcome you all Indigos to the first series of our lives, The World Through Our Eyes. And this is the second episode, and a very special one, because this time it's me hosting and not the interviewee. Now I can chill out, get my coffee out, and it's up to somebody else. Thank you to everyone for tuning in and listening. I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode number 2. For today, our special guest is someone that from the first moment Indigo started was there, and she really has become someone who is not only an inspiration to myself, the world, but also people in our group. I couldn't think of anyone more perfect to be my first special guest. So welcome, Donna.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I am too. So let me tell you a little bit about her. LaDonna is from Atlanta, Georgia, and lives on a vineyard. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Theatre Performance from Clayton State, and she has a Master's in Divinity. And she now is the host of her own podcast called Liberating Conversations, which you will find the link below. It's funny, we had our pre-interview a few weeks ago, and LaDonna was like, okay, so where do I start? Where do you want me to start? And I was like, tell me about your life. And she's like, where do you want me to start? So LaDonna, you start wherever you want to start. Okay, this is your diary. Welcome.
Yeah. So how to begin? So I would actually like to begin how I began my podcast, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
So I would like to uplift the name of my my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, Nudie Bell, who I did not get a chance to know well because she was sick while I was growing up. And but I do know that she was an amazing woman, that she was an amazing mother, and she brought humor wherever she went. So, and she was an amazing cook. And I though I did not get a chance to know her personally before she was sick, and I know her through my dad, and she created this wonderful human being. So so that's how I will begin.
Okay.
Usually I really like to uplift the people who brought me thus far. And it's really important for me to always look back and pay homage to the people who have made me who I am.
Wow, that's really special, because I feel that a lot of people, sometimes they take everybody for granted and they don't really look back about, the people had the huge impact of who you've become. So very honorable.
Yeah. Okay. So the story of how I got to this diagnosis. And so I've spent most of my life not knowing for sure. And I remember back in first grade, my teacher calling my mom in for a parent-teacher conference. And I mean, like, it was weird at the end of the year that she's calling my mom in and telling me that I should be kept back because I don't read well. And I remember us having to bring in a book. And she told me to bring in my favorite book, which is Who's in Rabbit's House. And I remember reading and struggling to read through it. And I mean, like, she's telling my mom these things, and my mom is like, why are you telling me now? And she's not going to get kept back because she has all these great grades. Like, I was a really good student. I was just really slow in doing certain things. I remember we would have like these, we would have these like quizzes or something like that we had to complete. And my whole class would be on the floor in the play area, and I'm still sitting at my desk trying to complete this assignment, right? But like, other than that, like I made really good grades, you know? So
It's strange, like, because obviously I'm a teacher, so it's strange to hear that they would wait till the end of the year and then bring you on with a book to read to show to your mum that you are that you struggle with reading. Like, come on, wouldn't you have done that in the middle of the year and then put support in? It's very strange, like backwards almost.
Yeah, I mean, and also to tell a student that they need to be kept back, not because of their grades, you know? And so my mom wound up pulling me out of that school and putting me in another one. And there they put me in remedial reading.
Okay, so what's remedial reading?
Remedial reading is when you will be taken out of your core class and put into a special group where you're reading, I don't know, I guess they're working on your reading to help you read better.
Okay.
But so you're not with your other peers.
So like a smaller group, like a smaller, like more like an intervention almost.
Yeah, so I think there are about 4 of us, if I remember correctly.
Did it help?
You know what? I don't know. I still remember some of the stories. I remember us reading like Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and like something about, oh man, the Jude who dove in a submarine somewhere in the ocean. Dang. I can't even think of his name right now.
No, I find that we're usually quite good at remembering really random details, but then when it comes to like names or dates, we're like, what?
Like Christoph, isn't that his name? I don't know. Anyways, moving on. It's not important.
So,
I'll know like 20 minutes from now.
How did it make you feel that you had to leave the classroom?
I mean, I don't think when you're that age, you really know that something is different. But like when you come back to class and your peers have been learning about something that you have not.
Yeah.
Or they'll have questions. Like I remember coming back in right before the end of their reading period, and some of those stories that they had sounded so great, and like I wanted to be a part of that. And so I guess that does feel weird, but like, you know, it's like one of those things, like you really don't know you're different until you know that you're different.
Yeah. What age do you think that was when you really thought that?
Well, so there were a lot of things that happened throughout my life that made me think that I'm different or know that I'm different.
Okay.
So, I guess really a part of my story and what makes me me is like the time that I realized that I was Black.
Okay.
Right. So like you don't understand race. So like if you're not in the US, it might not be a big thing for you.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Here in the US, like race has been a really big thing. And because I live in the South, and also understanding that I am a Black woman with a learning disability and have made it out of school, but there are so many who have not been diagnosed, that there are so many who either have been pushed out of schools because of an undiagnosed learning disorder, or that people just don't care. So I've been working for the past few years with youth in the youth detention center, and to work with girls who have been pushed out of schools because of learning disorders or misbehaving. So so there's this term, the school to prison pipeline, right? Where kids are pushed out of schools because of, mainly it affects students of color.
Okay.
And they're being pushed out of schools. And so like my focus was on young girls. So where they are, I don't know, pushed out because of behaviors. Like,
Yeah.
you know how like if you have a 5-year-old who's having a temper tantrum, that's normal, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, but the problem becomes when this like 5-year-old is being arrested for a temper tantrum, and that happens. So to know how some might say lucky, or I might say blessed that I came out of school, especially being one of very few in my class. So that that did play a part in me knowing that I was different, and then like kids like picking on you. You know how like kids are like really mean.
Yeah, they can be
So, like,
really mean, can't
yeah.
they? And do you think that how do you think, like, you know, you say that you're one of the only few that got through. What do you think is it luck, or do you think it could be other factors of your life?
Well, I mean, well, I'm not going to say that. Sometimes I think that school gets really hard when people do not see you. And when you factor in, like, if you're misbehaving, with air quotes.
Yes, air quotes.
So,
I've done that before, air quotes, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, I mean, like, what you might or someone might say is misbehavior, right? It might just be like you don't know how to deal with the current situation.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
or
like,
ADHD, you know, like,
yeah.
that's not misbehavior. That's just our brain wiring, you know.
Right. So, for instance, like if we take this 5-year-old that's having a temper tantrum, like someone might look at that 5-year-old and say they're misbehaving, when there's someone else who we might see that 5-year-old and say, oh my gosh, no, they're having like just a little crisis. Like,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
and all you have to do is just like let them have their crisis and don't bother them.
And don't
they'll be okay.
them.
Yeah, don't touch them.
Don't tell them to calm down. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you just leave them alone, they'll be just fine. Yeah, so I think that plays a big part in it, right? And like, my mom eventually moved me out of that second school because I was still having the same issues. And she was like, you know, my kid's not dumb. Like, she's very smart. And I've always made A's and B's in school.
Wow.
But like I said, I was like just really slow with homework and classwork. So I would be like the last one. And also with standardized tests, testing was the worst.
Oh,
they would always talk. And I remember my mom telling me, like, one of my classmates came up to her and she was like, LaDonna's really smart, but like she's just super slow.
Yeah, but it's sad that school, you know, thought you were dumb just because you're a bit slower to learn. Like, at the end of the day, if you're getting A's and B's and they say that you're dumb like that, it just doesn't make sense, does it, at all?
No, it doesn't. And like, also it kind of annoys me that no one went back and said like, oh, well, she's making A's and B's. Let's check out what else might be wrong.
Yeah,
the reason why.
yeah.
Yeah, and I remember in second grade, like I would always get in trouble for daydreaming. And as I got older, looking back on daydreaming, you know, like that's a symptom.
Yes, a big one, a big symptom, especially being attentive. That's a huge symptom, the most symptom.
Yeah, and I was just like, you know, I would get in so much trouble, and like my mom would say like, why aren't you paying attention? Like we would beef over homework and everything. So
I'm laughing because I can relate so much.
In fourth grade, I will never forget this yellow folder. My mom had just moved me into another school, and in this predominantly Black school, I was seen, right? Like I was no longer taken out of my classes. They kept me in, they actually put me in advanced classes.
How different that you're in a school and you were taken out for reading for being in or whatever these are called, inverted commas, being slow, to go to a different school and go into advanced classes. How beyond universe different?
Yeah. And I guess the thinking was that like maybe I wasn't being fed as much as I could have, right? Like I was just bored with the material. So like the challenge would be better. And So in my 4th grade class, though, my teacher, I will never forget, Miss Holdit. If she's listening today, I love you so much. But anyways, she had this yellow folder. I will never forget this yellow folder. I don't know what was in this yellow folder because like I remember opening it up and I would get overwhelmed by whatever was in this folder. And I think somewhere in the midst of her giving instructions and me taking this folder home, my wires got crossed. It might have been one of those days when I just kind of drifted off. And like, all it took was like just one little, maybe it could have been just like one little instruction or whatever. And like, I would hide this folder from my mom. And there was this one day, like she called my mom in. She was like, she ain't done her homework. And my mom, I got in so much trouble. That is like the most trouble I have ever been in my life over this yellow folder. And like, you know, my mom and I will have conversations now. And she's like, why didn't you just tell me? And I'm like, I don't know if I could articulate, you know, I was 9. So like, do
you think you like hid it almost to like hide the fact that you couldn't say what it was?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, like, how do you articulate at 9 that like you don't really understand what's going on in class, or like I didn't know why I didn't understand this folder. Like I just like even to this day I cannot tell you why I didn't understand this folder. I mean, like, it's so, I can't even tell you what was in it. Like, it's so far down in the depths of my brain right now.
But I love that you remember the vivid, like, you know, like, we meant to have, like, we're forgetful, but you remember these vivid, I remember you saying once, these vivid memories, and you remember every detail. You remember how you felt, you know, you went home with your mum and the yellow folder. But the small things, the detail, no.
Yeah. The instructions, no. I don't know, but yeah, I really had a hard time. Oh, I had a hard time learning how to write my name.
Okay.
I didn't know how to do the D's from the B's. So like I would, yeah. And so like writing my S's the right way, and just like I had a hard time with writing, spelling. Yeah, it was hard. And doing homework on time. Like my mom always says like she would never put me in extracurricular activities. Like we when I got older, like I would always make her feel bad and say, Mom, you know what? I always wanted to be in gymnastics or dance. Like, why wasn't I a part of these things? Because I'm an only child, right? And so like I spent a lot of my childhood by myself. And so I would make my mom feel bad about these things, like not putting me in all of these different things. And she's like, I couldn't because you would never get your homework done. I'm like, well, maybe it would have gotten done if you had put me in them. But, you know, anyways, you can't go back and, you know, so, you know, I just do other wild and crazy stuff now that I'm older.
Now that's good because now you get to choose. You get to choose rather than being forced into all these things.
Yeah, and now I choose not to do them because I have to get my work done.
Yeah. See, your mom taught you well.
No. I don't know if she taught me that well. I think, well, no, I take that back. She taught me excellent. But yeah, also, you know, it's just that thing, like you look back and you're like, what all could I have done if I, you know?
We all do that. But the difference between looking back and going, what could I have done, to looking back and, you know, regretting everything, I think that's the big difference, isn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's all good. Like, I made it somewhere.
Yeah, you did. You made it. I think you've done more than made it. I think you've done way more than made it.
I think what I was trying to say is like I've done like a lot of the things that I've wanted to do. So like because I'm an actor, I've gotten to dance and take dance classes, and I never played sports because you know, I wasn't built for them.
So what about high school?
High school. Ooh, high school. High school. Wait, we jumped over middle school. Middle school
Oh.
is the worst. Can
Oh
we
yeah,
just say
you
that?
guys have middle school. Sorry, we don't
do.
have middle school.
Middle school is just like the worst because everybody is mean. Um, it's an awkward time in your life where, you know, you're going through puberty and like you're trying to figure yourself out. And like I was always the oddball because here, well, where I went to school,
Okay.
my school was from pre-K to 6th grade, and most other schools ended at 5th grade for elementary.
Yeah. That's what I was
And then middle school would be typically 6th to 8th.
Oh, okay.
But I came in at 6th grade, so I was immature.
Yeah.
For my class, coming from the elementary school, you know, where everyone had that 1 year of middle school. So I was different anyways. And I remember having a teacher who said that she was dyslexic.
Okay.
And like, for her to say and tell us what that meant, that she would switch letters around.
Yeah.
And I related to her because I was like, oh yeah, I see things and I read things that aren't there. I switch letters around, but of course, like still like, how do you tell someone? Like, I didn't know. Well, I don't know. I remember thinking like, well, maybe that's not me because it doesn't happen all the time.
Okay.
Right. And like, I never had the conversation with her, but that was the first time that I had ever heard someone talk about dyslexia.
Okay.
Dyslexia.
Yeah, it's a hard word. Try. I've got dyslexia. Try spelling that. When I first found out I was dyslexic, try spelling. It's a word like you would have thought they'd make a word like ADHD because it's just 4 letters.
Yeah. So I really don't like the English language because like how like lie, LIE and
Yeah.
yeah.
It's hard.
Uh-huh.
So that was the first time you'd ever heard dyslexia. Did you ever talk about it with anybody?
No, I did not. It wasn't until I got to college when I actually started thinking like, oh, well, there's something wrong with me, right?
Okay.
Middle school, high school. The first time that I ever had a teacher talk about my writing and who encouraged me to write was my 8th grade teacher. We had like this poetry book that, of course, I waited until the last minute to write this thing.
Really?
So like we were reading this book called The Dust Bowl or something. I didn't read it. Of course. They read it. We read a couple of like pages in my 8th grade class, and she wanted us to do an assignment. And I think from my remembrance, this book was about this girl who was living through the Great Depression in America. And she was writing about her time in this Great Depression, and it was the Dust Bowl, and there was this famine throughout the land and everything. And so like she's journaling through poetry. And so I think I had been writing before this, but like we had to do these journals, and like it's like a day or two before, and I'm just like spitting out all this poetry, and I was like, okay, so we gotta make backdating pages and like writing all this stuff. And for her to write me back and say like, LaDonna, you need to keep writing. And like that was the whole of my high school journey.
Wow.
So like high school, moms and daughters, there's something that happens between moms and daughters where you start beefing, right? And like clashing over everything. And poetry and songwriting kept me grounded. And like you can look through my journals, and like a lot of the things didn't really reflect what I was going through, but it might have been like how I storied other folks, you know, but like it was the thing that I would always kept a journal. Like now I have like closets of like journals.
I love that because, you know, like, you know, you talked about struggling with your reading and writing, and then a teacher, like, just saying that nice comment, that positive thing, to make you then use that as kind of like a way to get through and a way to express yourself is incredible.
Yeah. I still have that that journal with the poetry and where she wrote that note, and sometimes I'll look back on it and I really thank her for that encouragement, right? And I'm pretty sure I've had like teachers that were very encouraging of me, but like I don't have the physical thing that I can take with me, right?
Yeah.
And I remember also another teacher, we had like a drama a drama club in middle school, and I think this was in 7th grade, and the teacher, I don't know, we got together and we did like skits and things, and like I was super shy up until this moment. Like I don't know, I was just so closed off because, you know, like we're different kind of people, right? Like
we are, yeah. Yeah, we are.
You don't know. You don't know where you are. You know, you have like all of these dreams and ideas, and like things are flooding through your brain at like 15 times, you know, the speed of what you can keep up with. And like for someone to give voice to who I was at that moment. And somehow I got kicked out. I don't remember. I don't know if I had like missed a couple of of classes, or if she just got mad at me. I think she got mad at me, and I don't know why. Who knows? But like I could have also missed a couple of classes because we forget.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
I may have forgotten to tell my mom at that time or whatever. But anyway, so high school, I don't know. Like high school was high school.
Yeah. High school is high school, but for us, high school starts at grade 7 to grade 11. So it's very strange.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. So you don't have middle school, whatever.
We used to, but then they cut it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's why I got confused.
Oh, I wonder if middle school would have been, or those years of 7th grade through 8th grade would have been so awkward if we were in high school.
Yeah, it was awkward.
Yeah. Okay, it's still awkward. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah. Yeah.
But you did really well in high school though, didn't you?
I did. So I wound up graduating top 5% of my class.
Wow.
And I don't know how I did it, but like it was a lot of long nights. It was a lot of tears, especially through my 11th and 12th grade years. 11th grade, like I was in like advanced chemistry and stuff like that. I don't think I should have been there whatsoever. I don't know how I got through it.
I love that. I don't know. I don't understand.
I would come into class and sleep every day. I was just like, I was always tired. I was confused because it was like water chemistry. So like 10th grade chemistry was wonderful because it was just like the equations. Oh yeah, we also have to talk about math and like how math really sucked. Now you're reminding me, it's like coming back to my remembrance. Like I think I should have sat with myself.
Right,
so, like,
tell us, I've heard about your math before. Tell us about your math.
So math sucked. I think the first year was okay because we had a really great teacher. He was super cute, and it's easy to stay focused on a super cute math teacher, but he was just a really great teacher. He worked with NASA in some shape, form, or fashion, and the way that he taught, like I really got it. 10th grade was geometry, which circles and and triangles sucked.
Yeah.
Mr. Chan, I'll never forget Mr. Chan. If Mr. Chan had not been there for me, I would not have made it through. Because like there were, I don't know, it's something about the formulas, right? Like the formula might be A to the second power plus B to the second power equals C to the second power. And like, I mean, like that's easy, right? But then when you start getting like, I don't know, because like it's just like this simple equation, right?
Yeah.
But like when you start going away from that, that's when it gets like super complicated.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Like it doesn't follow the formulas, because your formulas will be 2 to the second power with the parentheses and then an equation in between those parentheses times this divided by this. And I'm like, that's not what the sample looks like.
Stick to the book.
Yes. And I'm like, how much better would it have been if they would give you like samples of all of these equations, because those equations did not always match. And it was the same thing when you got to these triangles. I would always get the triangles wrong, right?
Trigonometry, yeah.
Yes, I hated that. And there was another math class that I was in 11th grade. I would always fall asleep in because like I was just lost.
There's always that one class. There's always that one subject.
And so I say this again, like, I mean, like I would work, like, even though I fell asleep, like I would go home and I would always find, because sometimes the teachers just do not speak to my style of learning, right?
Yes, exactly.
And as long as the teacher was there and teaching, I would understand. But like once I'm home, like I'm lost all over again. Right. And so like as long as you're there holding my hand. But I would go home and there's this website called Khan Academy.
Okay.
And like I would go on there and I would like spend all of my time looking at their videos and like working through problems with them. And like that is how I got out of chemistry. That's how I got out of all of my math classes. And so I am so thankful to them. I don't know who they are, but
shout out.
Just know that I thank you so much, because you got me out of all of my classes. And so like I would also go and pick up like, you know, the books for dummies and the books for idiots. Like I would get those books.
Love them.
Yeah. So I mean, like I did extra work, and like, you know, it would be tiresome. But like when you got to college didn't always fit that, you know, like you couldn't always find. I had a philosophy class one time. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place.
No, I just want to say though, I have to say that like that's really like dedication and like perseverance to just, you know, to not just let it go. You know, they don't, you know, teachers, not all teachers, but like, you know, they're not keeping up, they're not teaching in your learning way. So you went home and took your own initiative to learn yourself, and that's what got you through. I mean, I really don't know a lot of people that would do that. So wow, good on you.
I'm so thankful for whoever came up with the idea of the internet. Yes. And the computer, all of them, and whoever created all of the spelling softwares that I had, like, so my dad worked in information technology, so we would always have the latest computers. And if he had not done that, I wouldn't have had access to a lot of the stuff that I did have. But like, there was this one computer program that you would put in all of your spelling words, and like you could play games with them. And that's what got me through all of my spelling test, because I would just play those games and I would I would, you know, I probably couldn't spell them well, like if you asked me, but like, you know, I kept working and working and working. So
you're very passionate about academics.
I am. I love to learn. Learning is so fun. I love history, which is really funny because dates.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like the date part, but like if you ask me anything about like people or things like that, and like especially when you have history teachers who tell stories, those things stuck with me a lot better. And so yeah, I mean, like I've had some really amazing teachers. I've also had some really horrible ones.
I like that you remember them all, though. I think that's really amazing that you can remember people's names.
Yeah. I won't call all of their names, but there's this one time in high school. I had this teacher. I'm not gonna call his name, even though I want to, but he knows who he is. He used to pick on this one girl in my class, and she was a cheerleader, and like he would kick her out like all the time, and like it was funny because he was picking on her, but it was the next semester he started picking on me, and so it's not that funny when it becomes you, right? Like she would just hit the door, and he like, you look like you're gonna be trouble. Get out.
Oh my god.
Kid you not. And like he started doing me like that. One day, I didn't have a pencil, so we were taking a test. And so I asked a friend if I could borrow a pencil. He was like, "What, you came to my class unprepared? Get out." And I'm like, "But I want to take the test. Get out. Don't worry about the test." I don't know if I ever took that test or whatever, but I never told my mom either that he was picking on me. I don't know why. I don't know why you hide stuff from parents, but you do.
You do, because to be honest, you hide stuff from a lot of people when you've got all this stuff as a child.
Yeah. Actually, this is the first time that I'm actually talking about my ADHD ever. So only a few people know about my diagnosis.
Okay.
And it's a few close friends, and those who I haven't told, it's just like, it's like weird. Like, how do you start the conversation?
Like, oh, hi, hi, do you want to go for dinner? Oh, I have ADHD.
I know, right? So it's like, how do you start the conversation? When is the appropriate time? Like, so, hey, and then it's also the response afterwards. Like, what do you expect them to respond back? Yeah. Oh, okay, wonderful. Yeah, cool.
Should have fries with that. Right, talking about fries, we're gonna take a break.
Yeah.
Come back. We're gonna dive into LaDonna's college life and no more sides of fries. Right, we'll see you after the break. If you would like any information on Indigo's support group, check out the website below for our link to our Facebook page, or email at indigo.adhd2020@gmail.com. If you would like to offer any comments or feedback, or if you are interested in the world hearing your story, then please reach out, either through the group or through our email. As said before, have a good week. Check in again later, Indigos. Shh, the Indigo Diaries. Right, hi guys, welcome back. We had a bit of longer break than we thought. And then we had a bit of an internet problem, so this is take two.
Yeah.
But just like we do, we're very resilient, and we keep trying.
Yes.
So LaDonna had a nice break with nice candy.
I did.
So welcome back, LaDonna.
I'm so glad to be back.
So LaDonna, you were about to take us through a philosophy lesson and college.
Yes. So college, I don't understand why we kick kids out at 17 and 18, and you coddle kids all the way through high school, and then they graduate and you're like, you're an adult, get out. And then you expect them to succeed in life. Yeah. And it just, it just doesn't work that way. And then like, especially like if you've never been away from home for a long period of time and not away from parents for a long period of time, it's like, it sucks. Um,
Like washing, cooking, ironing.
yeah,
How are you meant to do those things?
I know. My mom always made my bed. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. That's not
Oh,
true.
Mine
Oh,
did.
wait. No, my mom always cleaned my room because,
Yeah.
like, cleaning room and ADHD sucks. Like, it just doesn't work out.
I know.
Yeah, things would always be junky, and like I would always try to clean up, but like I could not clean my space. But I could. It's weird because I can't clean my space, but I could clean other people's space.
Yes, because I feel like with us, we don't, it's like, oh, it's my own stuff. I quite like it a bit messy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is about our brain, but like it's easier for me like to say, so this should go here, this should go here with other people's space. And then like I've tried it with my own, like I've pulled out the label maker and I'm like, okay, so like this little cubby, because like I have these little cubed bookshelves. And I'm like, okay, so this is gonna go here, and this is gonna go here, and then like I've labeled like my dresser, socks go here, undies here, this
Wow.
place, and ask me, has it stayed that way? No.
How long has that lasted? How long did it last? Tell us now.
Labels have lasted forever. Labels have lasted forever. They're still there. The stuff that's supposed to be there isn't.
Right, so how did you get on with college?
So college sucked too. I just say it's just sucked. It did. Because like, you know, I remember in my literature class, we had to read this book called Blink. And like, I didn't understand it. Like, if I had access or if I had thought about audiobooks during that time, because I think Blink is on audiobook, I wouldn't have had as much issues as I had, you know, like, but like, you know, it's the stress of being on your own and being away at college from your parents. And then like, you know, like you're feeling homesick, and I was close enough to home, but my first semester I was at Savannah State and I didn't have a car my first semester. So like, you know, you had to bum rides and things like that. And like also like so I didn't have to worry about cooking because we had the diner or whatever, but like I would never eat in the cafeteria where there were vegetables because I hated crowds. Like I don't know if this is like social anxiety. There's like all this stuff.
Yeah, there's like so much more to it than just attention and like daydreaming.
Yeah. And like all of these things that like you just don't have words for it. And like, so I say it might be social anxiety because like it depends. Like if I have control over the group, I'm okay.
Yes.
But like if if I'm going into a crowd of people, like a lunchroom or like a cafeteria or something like that, like I break down if I'm not around friends. And like college doesn't work like that. In high school, you can go to lunch with friends.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, it's like a comfort blanket almost, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have to mention this one thing in high school. Like my mom one day saw my lunch, like they gave pizzas on sometimes, and she saw my pizza one day and she was like, that pizza looks like it's going to get up and eat you and have you for lunch. You will not eat in your school cafeteria ever again. So she started sending me with lunch. So that left me at the table by myself for the longest period of time. So I'm waiting on my friends to like come, you know, get their lunch and come sit with me. And like the stress of waiting for them was too much. So I stopped eating lunch and I would just go to the library until I got kicked out. But that's a whole nother story for another time. It wasn't my fault either. So behavior was never my thing. It was just like the people that I hung out with.
Yeah. Blame everyone else.
Well, we'll keep that to myself. But anyway, so college and like keeping up with writing assignments was like really difficult. It was really difficult like, I didn't understand how to register for classes. It was just like, and you know, you go for long periods of time. When you figure it out the first time, the second time around, you don't understand still, right? Because it's been so long since the last time you registered for class. But I didn't stay at Savannah State that long. I stayed for like a year and a half or something like that. And so I wound up back at back home, and I started at Clayton State University. Okay. And so it was there that I started realizing something was wrong. Okay. Because like I just had such a difficult time keeping up with assignments, remembering things, remembering dates for, like, we had like a political science class, and I mean, like, it was just really difficult. And like I had a I don't know if this was my first year, like I have to do relative to what was happening in the world. So it was around the time when Obama was getting elected. So I think that was like 2008, 2007-ish. Mm-hmm. And so I had a Spanish teacher. I should not have been in this class because she walked in, and like, this is like Spanish 501. So like, this is like the beginning of Spanish, right? So she walks in and she's speaking Spanish as soon as she hits the door, right? And I had a great Spanish teacher in high school. Okay. He would like teach us through song, and like I could say certain things and stuff like that. And I've been trying to learn Spanish since I was 5 years old. Wow. Understand these things. I don't know how to speak Spanish, even though I've been learning since I was 5 years old. I can count to 10. I might be able to count to 20, but I know for sure that I can count to 10. I can say red. I can say, hello, my name is. I can say, how are you? And where are you from?
Hola, that's all I know.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien, gracias. ¿Y tú? I can say all of these things, but other than that, like, it goes downhill from there. Like, and I can say certain things, you know. But like, and now it all makes sense now that I have a diagnosis, right?
Trying to learn English is hard enough, let alone trying to learn Spanish, French, whatever. I understand.
Yes. So she comes in, hits the door speaking Spanish, and like I have a friend there, and like neither one of us had Spanish. So I think the last time I had Spanish with Mr. Gutierrez in high school was 10th grade, because he left. And so like you only had to take 2 years of a foreign language in high school. And so 2 years. So that was, I graduated in 2006. So that was like 2004. So 2004 to 2008, that's 4 years not having a foreign language class.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yes. And like she's expecting us, and like she looked down on us because we didn't know Spanish. She was like, I go to other countries, I've taught in other countries, and they know I can do this. And I'm like, well, this is America. We are very different here. And like, I think the benefit of being in other countries, you know, like you have people in close proximities to you, right?
Yeah, you do, yeah.
That speak different languages. But here, that's not the case. Like, you have to actually travel to a space. Like, we have sections of Georgia that have a very diverse population of folks. Okay. But like where I live, there's no real diversity. Yeah. I am one of 2 families of color that live on my street.
Okay.
So other than that,
you've got to travel. Yeah, and America's a big place.
Yeah, so like but like I feel like in all of America, there are sections of spaces where it's just really diverse and saturated, like, you know. Mm-hmm. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother podcast.
Probably a series.
Yeah. Talking about America and how we section off things, redlining. Okay. Anyway, so I stressed out. And so like my friend left, and I should have left with her, but like I am the type of person that I do not like to give up.
Yeah.
I will stay with the thing until the ship sinks. Okay. If I were on the Titanic, I would be there with the captain. Okay. Until that's probably not the best thing to do, but I mean, like, that's just who I am. And like, looking back, I wish that I had gone ahead and just, because I found an amazing teacher after that. But anyway, she wound up like trying to get me expelled from school because I had gotten a tutor. My neighbor, actually, she was from Colombia, and a teacher also. So she would tutor me in Spanish, and like her Spanish was like a real proper type Spanish. So there were certain things that she felt were too, my actual teacher felt was too advanced for me to be knowing. But I mean, like, you know, I had an excellent tutor, and she was like, you're plagiarizing, but how do you plagiarize in Spanish? Like, either you get it right or you get it wrong, right? But like, yeah, she would sit down and help me with my homework and walk with me through it and everything. And so like it became a whole thing. And like I had anxiety issues after that. Like I stopped going to class. I didn't realize that I needed to have dropped the class. But it was so bad, like I couldn't even walk into the building with her after this whole ordeal went down. I could not, like, I mean, like I had a theater class, but anytime it came time for the Spanish class, I would start breathing hard, or like I would start gasping for air. And at that time, I didn't realize that was an anxiety attack.
Yeah, because it's uncomfortable and it's something that you try and avoid because you can't.
Yeah.
You just can't.
And also I have asthma. So like, I was just like taking my inhaler.
Like it's an asthma. I have asthma as well. I can relate to that. I've done that many times. Just come on.
Yeah. So it was after that I realized that those were anxiety attacks, and I had never had an anxiety attack before. So, and then after that, like I'm still dealing with anxiety from this class. And so, but now I know what it is. And, yeah, I always think about like the things that people do to people. Like you don't understand how your actions can affect other folks.
Other people, yeah.
Yeah. And like she's going on with her life. Like she probably doesn't even remember my name or my face.
Yes.
I remember her, and I remember what she's done to me, and like I'm still dealing with the aftermath of being in her class.
And that's the sad thing, especially when you're a teacher, you know, which is in that power of you've got all these children or, you know, college students. Really, you impact more than you know.
Yeah. So that was a piece for me. And then like I took a break from school not too long after that. My mom broke her leg at the beginning of the semester. I always say that it was because of her that I took a break, but I was like really stressing out. Because I was like, when I was at Savannah State, my major was in mass communications because I wanted to be on radio.
Oh, nice.
And I wanted to be a radio talk show host, something, whatever. And I wanted to be a producer. And so when I got to Clayton State, their mass communications program didn't look like that. It was more journalism based.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so I was just like, I had this one teacher, he was like, I don't know, it was just like really hard. He had like this formula for writing, and it was like these 3 or 4 C's. I remember clarity, and I think correctness was one of them. I don't remember the other 2. I never could get it. Like he kept talking about it, and I could not, it did not click with me. So I failed his class. It was like the first time I had ever gotten a D.
Oh, wow.
His class, and then a chemistry class, I got a D in. First time I've ever gotten a D. And so after that, I just I dropped out. and for a semester, and like I was taking pictures for a photography company. So we did all the yearbook pictures and stuff like that. So that was fun. And it gave me time to catch my breath, and it gave me time to really consider what it is that I wanted to do. So when I went back to school that next semester, I took I don't actually remember how the events happened, but I did take a theater appreciation class. I twisted my ankle and fell in love with theater. That was like the word.
I love that. She didn't literally twist her ankle.
No, I really did.
Oh,
I did.
You did?
I did.
Oh, so
literally.
So it's literally and also a metaphor.
So yeah, I don't know. Something about it, I just loved it. I was like, oh yeah, this is dangerous.
I can really relate to that, because obviously that's what I did in uni, college uni. But I always found it like it's a place where there's no judgment, and you can be whoever you want to be, and you don't have to sit, and you can be creative, and that's what I liked about it.
Yeah.
What about you?
I loved it because I felt at home and I felt seen. I was actually really good at it, right? Like my teacher would always commend me about, I remember we did like a spoken word something, and like she would invite me back to do more spoken word pieces.
Wow.
I don't think we talked about that, but yeah, I did like spoken word when I was at Savannah State. There was a group down there, and like I fell in love with it. And if you don't know what spoken word is, it's like poetry, but spoken in a different way. Think of hip hop.
Yeah.
And like
with a
how
beat.
rapping, yes, kind of like that, right? But it's still talking. If you ever want to check out like videos from Def Poetry Jam. Yeah. So yeah, I remember saying like, yes, I am going to sign up for theater. Oh yeah, so it had to be that next semester when I came back.
Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't start my theater program until August.
Okay.
Yeah. So there we go. It's all coming back to me. I'm not going to sing the song. Yes, it's all coming back to me now. Celine Dion, shout out. But yeah, I remember like being super nervous turning in that form to change my major, because like people put inside your mind that you won't be able to make it in certain things, right? So like theater was one of them. I remember, I have to go back to Savannah State when I first came into the program at Savannah State, and I was telling my then, like when you first go into school, they give you advisors. I don't know how it works for you, Tasha.
Yeah, the same.
But
Yeah.
So they give you a general advisor until you make it into your actual major.
Oh, okay. We get that in high school.
Okay. Let's not even talk about school. So they're not called advisors in high school. For us, they're called counselors.
Oh.
But let's not even get into that. My counselor sucked. She gave me a packet for colleges and scholarships. She just gave me this whole packet. She didn't sit with me. She did not even consider the fact that my family had not been to college. Neither my mom did for a couple of years, but they didn't really know how to do that because they went in a much different time than what I was going.
Yeah. Counselors, just want to, well, let's go off that, right? We at college, you go and do your...
Yeah. So anyway, so I've lost it now. I don't even know what I was talking about. But anyways, welcome to ADHD.
Yeah, welcome.
So I remember going into this man's office, and it was me and my dad. And he was like, so what is it that you want to do with this degree? And I was like, yeah, I want to be on radio and I want to be a music producer. And he was like, what's your plan B? And I was like, I was legit when I said this. I was like, what do you mean a plan B? Like, I don't understand. And I legit did not understand what he meant. He was like, if plan A doesn't work out, you need a plan B. And I was like, then came this thing like, oh, he's testing me. Right? And I was like, I don't believe in plan Bs. I really do not. I believe that life is a road, and sometimes you hit roadblocks. Sometimes you have to detour, right?
Yes,
and it's not, I'm like, it's not a plan B. It's that you just have to rework the way that you're thinking your path to this thing, right? Because like, we look in life that things are just like this straight path. And that's what they feed to you, right?
Yes. Oh, it's so easy to do that. Send it. No, right. Ours is like ADHD is like up, down, up, down, up, down. Up, down.
Right. I mean, like, it's ADHD is the metaphor for life.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, right? Like, they tell you, like, you go to school, then you graduate, then you go to college, then you get married, and you get this great job, and then you have kids, and, all this stuff. And that's not how life works out.
No, is that how your life works out? Because that's not how mine are.
Heck no. Like, my life does not look like that. Like, if my life had worked out the way that I wanted my life to work out, I would have had a villa out in Italy somewhere, and then a flat in London, and and I would have been like this world famous singer, and like me and Beyonce would be rivals. I mean, like, we would be like legit, like, if I see you in the streets, I'm gonna hit you upside your head, like that's like, right? But all in love still, because like, who would want to fight Beyonce, right? But anyway, so like, that's not how my life has worked out, but my life for me has worked out even better. And like, when I look at my life now, I still don't see it as a plan B. I just see it as something that has been refined.
Yeah.
Because I'm still doing all of the things that I said that I wanted to do, right? In some way, shape, form, or fashion. Like, I mean, like, we're here on this podcast. How is this not being in radio?
Yeah, like, it's just, you just have to find the right way for you at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, like, I was in high school, and like, the way that you see yourself in your life is very different from how I see myself now at 32, 18. Like, I look back and I'm like, oh girl, 18.
What were you doing?
Like, you don't even know the half of like what you have inside of you. Like, and you have not even tapped into the deepest part of yourself. Because when I was in high school, like, I struggled with my own value. I struggled. I mean, we didn't talk about this, but like, in 4th grade, like, I could not look in the mirror because I hated myself. I hated looking at myself. I had really bad acne, but also a situation had happened where a friend of mine, or who I considered a friend at the time, but in actuality, we weren't, because we could only be friends in classrooms, because we couldn't play together outside, because she was like, my friends would feel some type of way. Her father called my house. A grown man called my house and told me that he did not want me talking to his daughter ever again. And so somewhere deep inside, so you asked, when did I know that I was different? I knew that I was different when that phone call happened. And that was so traumatizing that I don't even really remember it. My mom had to remind me of it. And like, I was like, oh yeah, that did happen. And like, to carry that with you
your whole life.
Yeah. And like, I mean, to not be able to look in the mirror for however long I couldn't look in the mirror because I didn't like the sight of myself. I did not like the way that my skin looked. I did not like the color of my skin because someone made me feel as if I wasn't worthy. To have people call you slow or lazy throughout your life. When I was in college, I had a professor going around and telling people what they could be in theater or arts, and saying like, oh yeah, you're an ingenue. And then when she got to me, she was like, you're lazy. In front of the whole class. When she said that, you know what I'm saying? And like, I shrank in that moment.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, first of all, like, how dare you in front of my whole class? I mean, like, it would still be bad if she had told me to my face by myself, but like, it would not have been as bad.
Because you've then got not only what she said, but then you've got that thought of everybody else's reactions.
Is this how everyone else sees me? And yeah, I mean, like, that stuck with me. She called me lazy, and like, to this, you know, I mean, like, I have some of my friends come back and say, you remember when she did this? How heartbreaking it was for me to hear her say those words to you. One of my really dear friends, like, for her to encourage me and like feed into me and say like, you know, don't even worry about what she said, like, you were great. And like, to hear that from people who love me, you know. And that's my wish for people, for anyone who struggles with anything that you're struggling with, that you find someone who loves you enough to always feed into you, to say really, I'm all tore up right now, but to be able to have someone who says things to you that fills you up, and brings you joy, and sees when you're sad or when you're hurting, and who can encourage you through all of that. And I have been really blessed with a family who supports me, and friends that support me and who have walked with me. And even when I'm at my, you know, that they still love me, and they'll stick with me and say, you know, LaDonna, today you ain't on it.
Yeah, today,
right?
tomorrow it'll be okay.
Maybe, right? But and I acknowledge that there are people who have not had that experience, and like, my heart goes out to all of them. You're not alone. No, you're not. Right? You're not alone. And yeah, so but yeah, I mean, like, even theater for me was hard, because, you know, we would have these lectures, and like, I would have to record lectures that I never did go back and listen to ever.
No, our attention is there, but it never, no.
I can't, like, I just cannot focus enough to go back to listen.
And have to listen to it again?
Yeah, I know, right?
So, were you diagnosed then?
No, I was not diagnosed, but during this time, I did seek out my doctor, and asked them, and I told them that something was wrong, that I was giving out a lot of energy to complete work, and it was like really hard for me to focus. And the doctor that they sent me to was like, oh, you're in college, you don't have it.
Oh, that myth, that biggest myth. Oh.
Yeah, but then when he told me those words, I started researching on my own, because again, that's who I am, right?
Yeah, and hyper-focus.
Right, and so like, I went to the library and started like renting all these books that I never read, because they were overwhelming.
Yeah.
Talking about organization and all of that. But like, I also did a lot of research. I did research ADHD, but like, to me, I was like, those aren't my symptoms. Like, I don't have like, I'm not hyper, or, you know, and in my mind, I was like, I don't have focus issues or any of those things. But some of this stuff does fit, but like, I don't think that's me, right? But dyslexia really fit me, because because of the hard time that I had learning how to read and write. And also like the fact that when I read things, sometimes I see things that aren't there. Yeah,
all the signs were there from like your childhood and things like that.
Yeah. or having to read something over and over again in order to understand it. But I got diagnosed actually 2 years ago, 2018, while I was in the middle of my master's degree.
Wow,
So at first,
masters. Wow, I love that. Even after all that, that's amazing.
Yeah, so it was my first semester when I initially started again, because I don't know, when you're in masters, everybody wants to give you books. Right?
It's like the reading, like guru, like master's books.
Yeah. And it's not like one or two books. It's like every class has like 10 books. And like I was just overwhelmed by all the books. I had a problem like keeping up, and like some of my classes kind of overlapped. Like they were like religious education type classes. And so like a lot of their books kind of sounded the same, or they were like in the same genre and stuff like that. So like I really had a hard time keeping those together. I could not figure out what book was supposed to go with me on what day. And but anyways, we made it through, and I had asked, I don't know how I started asking again, but I was like, this is just like, I don't understand why I don't understand these assignments.
Yeah.
And also the books are a lot thicker now, and they're a lot more wordy. They're academic books by academic writers who don't think about their readers, right? Like it's not like I'm going to sit down with my cup of coffee and enjoy this read. It's like,
no, it's like I'm going to sit there for hours and hours.
They're using big SAT words. Like for anyone who doesn't understand, that is like SAT is the American, I don't know what it's called, like really, but it's the test that you have to take in order to get into college.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are these big, long, like 15 letter words. Or like they use words in a way that you just never knew that a word could be used.
Yeah, and you're just like, please just write it in like a friendly way, like, yeah. Oh, they use like 15 words from a thesaurus. And you're like,
yes. Can you write for like the 6-year-old in me, like please? Anyway, so I started asking around, and I found this really great lady. She sent me a long list of names of doctors, and I got overwhelmed, and I was like, either we're going to go through this list of names or we're going to get past the semester. So I chose the semester, and I put it off again. And I wish that I had reached out to her, because she was so willing to help me. But again, like I was just overwhelmed by books, essays, deadlines, and then she throws this packet of names.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I need to put it to the side.
Yeah.
To do this pile, and then I'll come to this pile.
Yeah, and it was no fault of her own. I guess like sometimes people just don't realize like how stressed you are. Yeah. And like what I've come to realize is when I am stressed, my symptoms are much worse.
Yeah.
Right? Like I have a really hard time focusing if I'm like super stressed out. And so in 2018, that was my year of stress out. So like in seminary, we have this saying that first year you die, second year you're buried, third year you resurrect. So like I was in the middle of burial, okay? Figuratively, of course. Because like the first year you kind of die to your old way of thinking.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
And then you're buried, so like, you know, you're cocooning because you're being formed into something else. And then there's a lot of wrestling with your previous thoughts of religion and God and however you see society, right? And my college was a very liberal one. And so like, you know, I grew up in a very conservative Christian background. And so like to have these things, you know, and things that I had already been questioning and wrestling with myself, and like you're in college and all this other stuff. So I'm at the very end of my second semester, going into my final semester, right? Or final year.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I would go to class and just totally shut down. I would, like, my eyes would glaze over with a lot of the things that I was talking about. I was in a class talking about trauma. And for some reason, that class did not set well with anything for me. And I don't know what it was about this particular class, probably the subject matter.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, I just totally shut down, and like I didn't have words for it. And like I had a friend that was trying to get me out of the class. Like he was like, leave that class and come to this one. We're having fun. And like, remember, I go down with the Titanic. Okay. So I'm going to stick with it because like, I just, I've only withdrawn from one class in my lifetime.
Wow.
But I couldn't
really
think of.
gone down with the Titanic.
Yeah, so, and this is one of those that I should have withdrawn from. I really should have, but I just didn't, and I don't know why. I guess it's like this part of me where I'm like, I have to prove that I can do it.
Yeah.
And I did, but it took an emotional and mental toll on me. But also, I had to fight for a scholarship because there was someone that I was supposed to be doing an internship with them. The internship was attached to a scholarship, and we kind of clashed for some odd reason. I don't know why. You clash at certain times in your life.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
When everything is crumbling around you, then you get this clash, right? That's just how life seems to happen. And so I had taken the test because I had been doing group therapy for 2 semesters. And it was really helpful. And like, I was talking to this one woman who was like really nice. And like, she was there with me every step of the way.
Oh, that's
and like, I told her like, hey, I've been having these problems and I've been trying to get tested for almost 10 years. And she was like, yeah, okay, I got you. Here's a list. If you get overwhelmed, I'll walk with you through it. That time I wasn't as, I was in a groove. Right?
Yeah,
so
you were still a little bit, but not like better.
Right. So like this third semester, I was in a groove, and I could sit down with this little list because I was like, something has got to give. And actually, I think it was like the end of that semester. So I found this woman who would test adults.
Okay.
And so when you're going to test, like you can't get that testing that next week. Sometimes it's like weeks out. So I didn't get a chance to get tested until February. And so this is December, February. So I go for testing. The testing, he was like, I've never been in a test with someone this long before.
It's a lot. It's like, for someone that's got ADHD, it's a long time.
Oh yeah, I remember being all over the table because I was like, why are we doing this? Is there no simpler way?
I know. And then they always ask you, are you okay? And you're like, no. In the room for 3 hours.
I'm tired. I'm getting hangry. You didn't tell me to bring snacks. And I'm tired of looking at your face.
And also they're diving into every part of your life.
Yeah.
And
math? I thought I was done with math. I don't know. I really do not know. I have not had math in like 6 years.
So what was the outcome?
So I was diagnosed with, I think it was like type 1 ADHD. I told you that I was going to have this diagnosis pulled up. But I remember, so it took them 3 months to get me the diagnosis. So I needed the diagnosis in January, right? Or like 2 years ago, 10 years ago. But anyways, I remember I was sitting in class and I got the email and my doctor's name came through. And when I read, I just took a deep breath in and I just started boo-hooing. Like I had to walk out of class because that diagnosis brought everything together. So every time someone called me slow or lazy or what have you, that diagnosis meant so much. And I don't know, I went back in my mind and thought back to first grade when I was sitting in front of my teacher and my mom trying to read this book. or struggling trying to write a D and decipher between a D and a B, and learning how to spell my own name. And my middle name was the worst because my middle name is like 15 letters. Um, but like, I couldn't, I was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because it just meant so much to me. And I knew something was wrong, even though other people had not acknowledged it. And I don't know. And then also it was this great sense of pride that washed over me that, oh, I made it. And I'm at the very end, or I'm past the middle of my master's program. And I'm here. I made this. I did this. And all those long nights, all those the tears that I cried, the times that I threw my phone and the books and said that I was going to quit. Like I cannot tell you how many times I said that I was going to quit and drop out. And like, because of who I am, that I did not give up. And I said, no, okay, let's take a break, go watch a movie. And like how hard it is to ask for help, because you don't want people to look down on you, or I don't even think it's like that people will look down on you, or that's the thought that you think that people are going to have. I think it's more so the fact that like you feel some type of way that I can't ask you for help, because I need to know on my own that I can do these things, that I can make it, which is also a really hard way to live. Like we weren't made to live this way.
No, it's like you have to be vulnerable to people and admit that there's something wrong, and it's like, but nobody else asks for help, so why should I have to?
Yeah, so the vulnerability piece, yes. And it's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to tell people, I don't know, I guess in your mind it's like you failed.
Yeah.
If you ask for help. I've gotten a lot better now. But also that was the first time, that semester was the first time that I had to ask for an extension on 2 of my finals.
Okay.
It might have been 3 actually. The very first time that I've ever had to, and those were the hardest conversations that I had to have. I really needed an extension on all of my classes.
One step at a time.
Right, but I had one professor that I just respected too much to say, or to tell her, like I didn't know how to tell her that I was struggling. I loved her so much that I was like, you know what? However long it takes, I'm going to make it by this deadline.
Yeah.
Which we'll have to unpack that later, because I haven't unpacked that fully. But I mean, like, I was just going through a lot, so I was struggling to keep my scholarship. And because of in that struggle and that battle, they thought that I was trying to skirt through the process and trying to get out of work. And I was like, no, I'm probably one of the hardest working people here. And for them to have that label on me, that I could not tell them that I had a learning difference. And so like to understand like how people who are differently abled in whatever way, you have to navigate the world because of how people see you.
Yes.
And like, you have to choose how you want to show up. And like, I haven't told people that I have a learning difference because 1, it's a weird conversation to have. But 2, it's like, I'm still wrestling with this diagnosis because it is still new.
Yeah.
And this is the first year, like coming to your group was the first time that I was like, okay, it's time for me to start learning what it means to have ADHD, because that was like a sucker punch for me, right? Because ADHD wasn't even on my radar. It was always dyslexia. And like, I haven't even called the doctor. Like, I got the diagnosis. I did. Like, I haven't called them. They haven't talked to me about what the diagnosis meant. Like, we haven't had that. I didn't have that because I had to keep going on with life.
Because life doesn't just stop. It's like, oh,
Right.
I've got ADHD. Okay, now I've got time to just stop.
Yeah, like I was already overwhelmed, as I've said, and like I could not sit down with her with that. Like, I had to just keep going with whatever was going on, and trying to make it through. But like, graduation, walking across that stage meant so much, you know. Yeah, it meant so much. So there's this gospel song. Man, I wish, but it says, I wish I could name it for you, but it says, they said I wouldn't make it. They said I wouldn't be here today. They said I'd never amount to anything. That has been my song forever and a day, like, because it tells my story, right? But I'm still holding on. That's the name of the song, Still Holding On. I'm still holding on. I'm still making it. I'm still like, right now I'm wondering, like, do I have the brain width to go ahead and get a doctorate? Like, because I want it.
Yeah.
But also I'm like, after my master's, I don't know if I can take it. I have like a gray hair or two. And it's all from my master's, of course. But
Not age.
yeah. So I mean, like, these are things that but like, you know, in my mind I'm like, this is something that I think that I can do, and I know that I can. And but then I look over at my friend who is like one of the smartest people that I know, and she's struggling, and I was like, dang, she's struggling. How is it gonna be for me?
Really?
But I've never run from a challenge. So yeah, I mean, that's my story, and here we are.
I have to say, LaDonna, like, I think that's absolutely, like, I mean, you've been there since day one for me and Indigo, and the first moment I met you, I knew you were incredible. But after hearing this, I just really like that you never stopped and you never gave up, and against all odds. And 2 years ago you got diagnosed, and it made so much more answers. But you know, maybe it would have been easier, maybe it wouldn't. But I think you're a really inspirational person.
Thank you.
Is there anything that you would like to leave the listeners with?
Hold up. First of all, you got me over here crying. Like, like I'm over here like, I'm boo.
Sorry.
It's like,
minute.
But no, I want to say this before I go into my last word. I want to say thank you so much for the group. I thank you for creating this platform and for allowing us to have space to tell our stories, because like I said, this is the first time that I'm talking about these things, and I feel comfortable sharing it. And so thank you so much, because you were an amazing person.
Oh, you're making me cry now. Go on.
See, I'm not going to be the only one crying on this.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I think that people will really learn something from this story, and I'm really glad that you came here to share it with us.
Yay. So the word that I would like to leave with people is a quote by Audre Lorde. It says, "When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I am afraid." Thank you.
Okay, so we're all emotional over here, so we're going to end this quite quickly. So
I didn't bring my tissue.
Thank you so much, LaDonna, and thank you, Indigos. I think this has been a real special first episode for me, because I've been the host, and what an amazing guest, and I don't say that lightly. So Indigos, as said every week, thank you for joining us, and goodbye. Signing out. See you soon. Have one hell of an amazing week. And we're out.
Dear diary,
Dear diary,
Dear diary,
today is ending. I'll check in again tomorrow.
tomorrow is a brand new beginning.
good night, sweet dreams.
I think tomorrow will be
Shh.